Welcome to a deep dive. All right, so we've gathered a bunch of reports, articles, all focused on AI, the big money flying around, the regulatory discussions, how it's actually hitting jobs, and even our daily info.
Yeah, and today we're going to try and pull out the really key insights. We'll look at the sheer scale of investment, how regulators are trying to, well, keep up, I guess.
And also the risks, right? Like when AI gets things wrong in a professional setting.
Exactly. And also how companies are handling the public reaction when they announce big AI pushes.
Okay, so our mission here is pretty straightforward. Cut through all that noise, unpack these sources, and get you right to what matters, making it all hopefully clear and interesting.
And there are some surprising things in here. I mean, the amount of money is one thing, but also some really stark warnings from courts and even a company getting unexpected heat just for talking about AI.
All right, so where do we start? Looks like the first big thread is, well, following the money. There's this report about Meta potentially making a massive investment in scale AI.
That's right. Yeah, the sources say Meta's in talks for potentially billions, possibly even over $10 billion into scale AI.
Wait, 10 billion, that's huge.
It's absolutely massive. For Meta, it could be their biggest external AI investment. And, for scale AI, it would be one of the largest funding rounds for any private company ever.
So scale AI, why them? What is it they do that's worth that kind of potential investment from someone like Meta?
Okay, so scale AI, their core business is data labeling. It sounds kind of mundane, maybe, but it's absolutely critical.
Right, it's like preparing the data before you can train the fancy AI model.
Exactly. They label images, text, audio, basically teaching the AI what it's seeing or hearing. And, big names like Microsoft, OpenAI, they use scale AI services.
This is the foundational stuff, the grunt work that makes the AI smart.
Precisely. And they're already doing big business, apparently. $870 million revenue last year, projecting $2 billion this year.
What?
Yeah. And the sources also mentioned, interestingly, that a lot of this work is done by contractors. There was a Department of Labor investigation mentioned, but it seems that was dropped.
And Meta already knows scale AI, right? This isn't totally new for them.
No, not at all. They were already in on Scale AI's last big funding round, the Series F, which was $1 billion itself.
Okay, and there was another fascinating detail in the sources connecting them. Something about defense llama.
Yes. Scale AI actually built an LLM for military applications called Defense Llama, and they built it using Meta's own Llama 3 model as the base.
Huh. So it really shows how tangled these investments and technologies are getting.
Totally interwoven. It's not just consumer tech. It spills over into other areas like defense.
So the key thing for you, the listener, to grasp here isn't just the giant number, 10 billion or whatever it ends up being. It shows that even with all the AI model breakthroughs,
the underlying work, the data preparation, that's still seen as a massive critical piece, a multi-billion-dollar foundation that the tech giants feel they absolutely need to secure.
okay, so that huge investment naturally leads to questions about, well, safety and oversight, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Which brings us to the regulatory side we saw in the sources, particularly in the UK. Meta is facing some scrutiny there about using AI for risk assessments.
Right, this links to their Online Safety Act. That law requires platforms like Meta to assess risks, especially to kids, and prevent illegal stuff. Risk assessment is key.
And a coalition of UK internet safety groups like the Molly Rose Foundation, NSPCC, IWF, they wrote to Ofcom, the regulator. They were pretty alarmed
Alarmed why?
by a report suggesting that maybe up to 90% of Meta's risk assessments could end up being automated by AI.
90%, wow. They called that a retrograde step, didn't they?
Yeah, highly alarming. Their main point, basically, is that relying so much on AI might not meet the legal standard of being suitable and sufficient. They're pushing Ofcom to make sure platforms aren't just, watering down safety processes with automation.
Okay, but Meta pushed back, according to the reports.
They did. They said the letter misunderstood their approach. They insisted they're committed to high standards, following the rules. And crucially, they said they are not using AI to make decisions about risk.
So what are they using it for then?
They described it as a human-overseen tool, developed by their experts, using AI to help identify requirements. They argued tech like this actually helps improve safety.
But where did the campaigners get the 90% figure from? The source mentioned an NPR report.
Right. It seems that report cited an anonymous former Meta exec who claimed future updates and safety features would mostly get AI approval, not deep human review.
Which the exec thought meant faster launches, but potentially.
Higher risks, yeah. And that same report apparently mentioned Meta was considering automated reviews even for really sensitive stuff like youth risk and misinformation.
So you've got Meta's official line and then these concerns seemingly based on that reporting. What's Ofcom saying?
Well, they're considering the concerns. They expect companies to be clear about who actually did the assessment, who reviewed it, who signed off.
Okay, so the insight here for you, someone using these platforms, is this really critical tension playing out?
Yeah, it's the push for efficiency and scale through automation versus the demand for really solid human-led safety checks. And this is happening right now with the tools you probably use every day.
Okay, moving from platform level risks, the sources also highlighted another danger: AI just making stuff up, particularly in professional fields. There was a strong warning from a high court in England and Wales.
Yes, a very sharp warning, aimed squarely at lawyers using AI. It came from a ruling by Judge Victoria Sharp.
And she didn't mince words, did she? Said generative AI tools are not capable of conducting reliable legal research.
Pretty blunt. She explained that while the AI's output might sound plausible, even confident, it can be entirely incorrect or simply untrue.
So is the message don't use AI at all?
Not quite forbidden, no. But Judge Sharp was absolutely clear. Lawyers have a professional duty. If they use AI, they must check the accuracy by reference to authoritative sources before they use that information in court or anywhere else. The buck stops with the human lawyer.
And the examples from the cases mentioned were pretty bad. One lawyer filed something where, 18 out of 45 case citations were just fake?
Completely non-existent. And another case cited 5 fake cases. That lawyer denied using AI directly, but suggested maybe AI summaries from Google or Safari were the source, which doesn't really help, frankly.
The warning feels serious. Judge Sharp said this kind of thing is happening more often.
Yeah, she noted a growing number of fake citations and said more needs to be done by lawyers to ensure they're compliant.
Did the court actually punish those lawyers?
They decided not to start contempt proceedings in these specific instances, but, and this is important, Judge Sharp explicitly said this was not a precedent. The implication is clear. Next time might be different.
And she listed the potential consequences. They sound pretty severe.
Oh, yeah. Severe sanction could mean public criticism, paying costs, contempt of court, maybe even being referred to the police. And both lawyers in these cases were referred to their professional regulators. So the takeaway here isn't just for lawyers. It's a really stark lesson for anyone using AI for facts, especially when accuracy matters.
Right. It shows that just because something sounds right doesn't mean it is right. You still have to do the homework, check the sources.
Exactly. The verification burden is still on you, the human.
Yeah.
And failing that can have serious consequences.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit from professional risks to the more human and business side of AI adoption, how companies roll it out and how people react. The sources talked about the CEO of Duolingo, Louis van Aan.
Yeah, he had quite an experience. He announced internally that Duolingo was going AI first, then shared that email on LinkedIn. He admitted he really did not expect the amount of blowback he got from the public.
I saw some reactions quoted, like people saying, canceling my account now or ditching their long streaks. Pretty intense.
It really was. Van Aan seemed to think it tapped into a broader anxiety about technology taking jobs. He felt people misinterpreted it, thinking Duolingo had, fired everyone and robots were now fully in charge.
Which wasn't the case.
No. He said he regretted not being clearer externally. Internally, he said, staff reaction was calmer because they knew Duolingo's always been very tech-focused.
So what was the actual strategy then, according to him?
He explained it's about changing how people work, using AI to automate the repetitive stuff, freeing up employees for more creative or strategic tasks. He was clear that only a very small number of hourly contractors doing repetitive work were affected, and they might even get offered other roles.
So it's more about augmenting work, not just replacing workers wholesale.
That seems to be the idea. He believes this kind of AI-mediated work is coming for the vast majority of jobs.
Did he give examples?
Yeah, like engineers spending less time writing basic code because AI helps, maybe giving them 10% more time to learn new skills. Or designers acting more like creative directors, guiding AI that generates artwork instead of doing every single detail themselves.
And the big benefit for Duolingo itself?
Speed, mainly. He said AI lets them add new languages way, way faster. He kind of compared it to early text-to-speech, maybe a bit clunky at first, like robotic voices, but it improves and enables massive scale, short-term bumps for long-term gain.
So Duolingo's experience really highlights that tension, doesn't it? The potential for AI to boost productivity, but also the real fear it generates about jobs.
Absolutely. And it really underlines how crucial clear communication is during these shifts. It's not just about the tech, it's about managing the human element, the anxiety.
And the Duolingo material had a couple of other interesting side notes about AI, beyond just the workflow changes.
Yeah, like the AI avatar, Lily, for premium users. Van On talked about parasocial interactions.
Right. He mentioned seeing people in China talking to AI friends, and basically said he thinks it's just inevitable that some people will spend a lot of social time interacting with AI.
Which is a whole other conversation about the future of relationships and AI, really.
And they also touched on the copyright issue, how these models are trained.
Yes. Von On made a point of saying Duolingo trains its artwork AI only on its own illustrations, specifically to avoid those ethical issues. Though he seemed less concerned about text for translation, given its mostly common language.
The sources also briefly mentioned Duolingo's growth, that users learn for jobs and hobbies, and how Vanan sees TikTok and Instagram as competitors focusing on enjoyment, plus their expansion beyond languages.
Okay, so let's try and synthesize this. We've seen AI driving just massive investment in the foundational stuff, like data labeling. That's point one.
Right. Then point two. This rapid spread is sparking huge debates about safety and regulation on the platforms you use, balancing automation with human oversight.
Point three, we saw clear warnings about professional risks. AI can be confidently wrong, and the responsibility for checking facts is firmly on the human user. Serious consequences if you don't.
And finally, point four. We looked at Duolingo navigating the human reaction, the job anxieties versus the push for productivity, and even hints at AI's role in future social interactions.
Yeah, so all these different threads, investment, regulation, professional standards, public perception, they all point to AI being this incredibly fast-moving, transformative force with really complex challenges and opportunities popping up everywhere.
Exactly. It's hitting technology, rules, jobs, even how we relate to information and maybe each other.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe a final thought for you to chew on, considering how fast AI is moving, this big push for automation we discussed, and these documented risks of AI getting facts wrong.
How will you adapt? How will you personally approach verifying information? And how will you think about the role AI plays in the tools and services you rely on every single day?
Something to think about.
Definitely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Keep asking questions. Stay curious. It's a fascinating and rapidly changing world out there with AI.